guidance.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We had yesterday afternoon, I thought, a very productive work session dealing with all of the pending tax legislation. And as a result of that, we were able to put together, I think, a pretty good bill, which was comprehensive, rolling a number of bills together on the internet sales tax, remote sales tax, wayfarer decision, which we're going to address today. The other bills, we had hoped to possibly put something together, but we're in the process of working it all out. And I think by the first of next week, we should be in a position to have rolled and have staff roll a number of things together. We've sorted out options. That was very productive for us yesterday afternoon as we worked through this. So what I'm going to do, Mr. Chairman, is advise people, and then when we have a quorum, we'll officially act. But on the docketed bills for today, I would move that Senate Bill 1297, 1211, 1697, 1698, 1225, 1237, 1631, 1320, 1657, 1739, 1372, 1572, 1630, 1443, 1531, 1744, 1093, 1471, and 1617 be passed by for the day. And that, we obviously, do we have a quorum yet? Okay, we do have a quorum, Mr. Chairman. I would move that those bills go by for the day. Okay, the back page, the back page. Oh, really?
1093,
1090.
71, and 1617?
That's correct. That's correct. The, so what that leaves us with are a series of bills that we were working with on the wayfarer decision for remote sales tax, and one bill that Senator Ruff had, Senate Bill 1256, dealing with Virginia taxable income subtraction from gain by taking eminent domain. Those would be all that we actually can move on today. So that's the motion that I would make, Mr. Chairman.
All right, is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that on our agenda, Senate Bill 1297 through Senate Bill 744 on page 1 be passed by for the day, and on page 2, Senate Bill 1471, 1617, and 1250.
1093.
And 1093, 1471, 1617, and 1256.
1256 would remain on the docket.
Okay. I believe we have a quorum now, so if the roll could be open, sir. Excuse me. Excellent, John.
Okay.
Senator Hanger has made his motion that those bills that were recited be passed by for the day. It's been seconded. All those in favor of passing the bills by for the day, please signify on the voting board.
Voice. We can do voice.
I know what it is.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ayes 9, no, 0.
All right, all those bills are passed by for the day. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Yes, okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, Senator Ruff has one standalone bill. It's 1256 that needs to be addressed. And then we would, the remainder of our work on the docket today would be the wayfarer bills, which I believe we've rolled it into Senator Ruff's bill. The others are planned to.
Senator Ruff, would you like to start off the afternoon, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I'm changing my name.
No, I wanted a roll call for the audience,
Yeah.
not for us.
Gotcha.
Senator Ruff, you going to talk to us about 1256, sir?
We got 90% of the way through the last meeting, and which deals with property that will be in the line of the eminent domain. Everybody was happy, and then something went off the wheels, but then we figured out that the language that Lisa had written was perfect and needed no change. And she said, of course. So if you want another explanation of the bill, I'll be delighted to give it to you, but since you heard it once.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman, I think we had a conversation on this bill about the potential for some investors to be able to be working this rather than the innocent people that with farms and houses and what have you. Seems like that may be just a minor concern, and I don't believe, you're not offering an amendment now, are you? Senator
No,
Ruff?
no amendment.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move the bill be reported.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Newman,
before we.
Before we do that?
if you
There's a
would
couple questions.
withhold your motion, please,
Yeah.
sir.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't hearing quite correctly. Are we saying we're not going to make any changes that we are
No,
saying?
on
Okay.
this one, it's the way it should be.
And is this the Wayfair?
No, no,
sorry.
wake up.
But if we weren't going to make changes to Wayfair, we might have to talk, so, okay.
This is.
This is to
okay.
deal
Right.
with,
Let me try
with
again.
the
This-
property on the pipeline, gas pipeline proposal. It's going to go through a number of farms that the owners of the farms have had it for generations. They don't want to sell their property, they don't want to lose their property, but they're going to lose it. And it may have been bought in the 20s or the last decade before, the century before that.
Let me pause just a minute. Sometimes it gets a little confusing, but if I could direct the members of the committee's attention to the yellow sheets that are in front of you on page 3 to Senate Bill 1256. It will give you a very succinct but very thorough explanation of the bill. I'm proud of you.
There we go.
Everybody good? You got it now? All right, Senator Hanger had moved that 1256 be reported. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that 1256 be reported. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you would please open the roll. One of your better presentations, Frank. Thank you. If you report the Senator McDougal is on the way, he's getting ready.
Oh, excuse me, yes. Did I get it? Yep, okay.
All right. The bill is reported 12-0, so that takes care of 1256.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, Senator Ruff sitting down early, but I guess you want to sit up here? If we're going to roll the bills into your bill, or you want to stand up front? Or
I
back-
think you
Not
need-
particularly.
No, I think you look very handsome up there, so I'd like for you to be up at the dais. It gives you a sort of senatorial presence.
Okay, Lisa, you do have the substitute. Hope so.
All right, if you all, staff, would be so generous to distribute this encyclopedia.
Mr. Chairman, I might get shot in the back being up here.
There are already people closing in on you up there. You better watch.
All right, Senator Ruff, do you want to go through it, or do you want?
No, I want Lisa to get through it. She wrote it.
Let me, Mr. Chairman, I could give just a brief overview, and then we'll get Lisa to get into the details. For those who were not in our work session yesterday. Or do you want to do that, Senator Ruff? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
and members of the committee, we had quite a number of bills that were, in one way or another, were addressing the Wayfair decision. What we did in work session yesterday was recommend that all of them that asked to be included because they were attempting the same subject be rolled into a substitute. So that would include Senator Ruff's bill, 1083, Senator Peterson's Senate Bill 1120, Senator Stewart's bill, Senate 1267, Senator Howe's bill, Senate Bill 1294, Senator Wagner's two bills, 1390 and 1767, my bill, Senate Bill 1500, and Mr. Chairman, your bill, Senate Bill 1601. And then with that, there are a number of provisions that have been outlined as far as the provisions that we found acceptable. And Senator Ruff, you want to walk us through that, or you want to have Lisa to kind of hit on the?
I think Lisa would be
Okay.
far better.
All right, Lisa, we're looking forward to your wisdom here.
Thank you. So this bill uses Senator Ruff's introduced bill as the basis, with only a few minor changes. On lines 546 through 559, while the provision is still in place that facilitators are required to collect tax on all of their transactions and sellers are required to let the facilitators collect the tax, it establishes a waiver process that tax can administer if either a seller or a facilitator indicates a burden or hardship with that rule. On lines 569 through 571, it specifies that if the tax is remitted by a facilitator or deficient because incorrect information is provided to the facilitator by the seller, then the seller is liable for that difference. Lines 585 through 589 prohibit class action lawsuits against the facilitators by sellers as it relates to tax collection. Lines 750 and 751 include a severability clause, so that if any provision of the act.
Okay, slow down just a minute, Lisa.
Sorry.
If I may interrupt you, Senator Saslaw would like to know, what is a facilitator?
I'm sorry, so a marketplace facilitator, this was in the existing bill. This is, the provisions are related around entities like Amazon or Etsy or that allow smaller sellers to sell through their marketplace. So this is requiring those facilitators that are hosting these smaller sellers to collect and remit the tax on their behalf.
You started to go to the next ones, please.
So on line 750 through 751, we add, this is in the back in the enactment clauses, we added a severability clause so that if any provision of the act is found to be unconstitutional, the remainder of the act would stand. And then finally, line 752 through 753 put a delayed effective date in place solely for the marketplace facilitator piece. The remainder of the online collection of sales tax would go into effect July 1. That one piece would go into effect January 1, 2020. The reason being that because the bill directs tax to set up the waiver process, we thought that they might need a bit of extra time to just make sure that is in place and ready to go.
Okay. Any member of the committee have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Hanger.
I'd like for Lisa just to point us to where we have the de minimis feature for the threshold.
Yes, sir. The threshold is on page. Generally, I will tell you that generally the threshold is $100,000 in sales or 250 transactions. Page 17. And that those are the thresholds that were in place in the South Dakota statute that was examined by the court in Wayfair.
Okay.
So we know absolutely they will be constitutional.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, further
200.
question?
Senator Hanger.
And then,
I'm sorry, 200 or more retail sale transactions. I'm sorry.
right, we
or
did change that to
100,000.
200 instead of 250? Right. So it's 100,000 or 200 transactions?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, then following up, we encountered an issue for some of the modern techniques of buying things and dealing transactions, Uber specifically, and we were going to delegate to the Department of Taxation. Where would we find that language in the bill? If we have that in there correctly?
Yes, sir. That is on lines 546 through 559.
All right, slow down just a second. 546, the lady says.
Page 21.
Page 20.
Page 21,
What were those lines again, Lisa?
beginning on line 546. And the actual waiver begins on line 550.
Mr. Chairman, and it might be good for Lisa to give an example of how they would ask for that waiver.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr.
please.
Chairman, the bill leaves it up to tax to establish guidelines, but the law does specify that the guidelines do need to include a process for applying, the criteria that they'll be using, and then the process for providing notice to both the marketplace facilitator and the affected sellers that this waiver's been granted. So the attempt was so that tax will be administering a consistent program, and they won't be ad hoc arbitrary decisions, that they'll have some criteria in place for evaluating the request.
Thank you.
Lisa, once again, earlier in the session, I said I knew I shouldn't say something, and I did it anyway, but it made me feel better. And that's important, Louise. Who is going to be happy with the changes that we made, and who is going to be unhappy?
That's a question.
Okay, before we do that question,
And I
Senator Wagon
apologize, Lisa,
has a-
if you could tell us the part that removes, and I apologize if I was out of the room, you may have already asked us, the part that removes the trigger on fuels tax and, you know, the, should Congress actually act, which I'm not holding my breath on that one, but if they do, there is a trigger that would revert all the good work we did on transportation.
Yes, sir.
Is that one of the enactment clauses?
Mr. Chairman, yes, sir. I didn't point these out specifically because they're unchanged from Senator Ruff's original bill, but those are beginning on page 28, line 726, the second, third, fourth, fifth, the second, third, fourth, and fifth enactments unwind that trigger.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator Newman had a sensitive question.
I don't know, Mr. Chairman. At least I'm on the right bill. Mr. Chairman, either to the patron or Lisa or someone that knows.
To Lisa.
To Lisa. Okay. Lisa, I get that you have the facilitator collecting the tax and remitting the tax. How do we know that the restaurant or others are not going to also have a double tax? And here's the concern, and maybe I can lay it out. You have Grubhub or whatever these things are called, and you have you decide to get food from Max's on Main. How do we know in the legislation here, not discretion of the department, not other opportunities or possibilities, but how do we know that Grubhub is not going to charge the tax and Max's on Main is going to also charge the tax? How is that determined?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, the law would basically prohibit the seller from collecting and remitting the tax unless they have a waiver. But on a more practical basis, I would argue nothing changes in terms of how the transactions are presented from what happens today, absent these laws. Right now, and I'm going to use a hotel as an example, if you book online through Expedia.com, that site collects your room fee and your taxes that are due and turns them over to the actual hotel at the time after they've collected that from you. Under this new process, they would simply remit that money directly to tax, but I'm not real sure how there would be an extra opportunity for the hotel or the restaurant or whomever to charge that additional tax because the entire financial transaction is taking place with the facilitator.
Mr. Chairman, just following up. So just following up, and I think we're heading in the right direction, but you said there's a prohibition in here. Where is the prohibition that the hotel, the restaurant, or whatever, not pay the tax? So is there something in this bill that says they are not allowed to pay the tax or charge the facilitator the tax, which then double taxes the consumer?
Yes, sir. Let me flip back to the right place in the bill. I'm sorry, my pages got all messed up.
I'm sorry, yep.
Mr. Chairman, if you look at, beginning on line 546, subsection D1, it says a marketplace facilitator shall be considered a dealer for purposes of this chapter, which means they're the ones that register with tax and collect and remit the tax, and shall collect the tax imposed on all transactions that it facilitates. And then subsection D2, right beneath that, says no marketplace seller, meaning a person that's facilitated, selling their transaction through the facilitator, shall collect the sales and use tax on transactions made through a marketplace facilitator.
Okay, all right, Mr. Chairman, just one more question. That's helpful, and in regards to the minimum thresholds for this, that are in this bill, number of transactions and dollar amounts, does that apply to facilitators, and does it also apply to someone who is selling direct? In other words, someone's deciding to sell from their own website, is it apply to both the dollar amounts and the number of counts?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. When you look at a facilitator specifically, you're looking at the aggregate for all of the sellers selling through that facilitator. And again, the standard is $100,000 in gross revenue or facilitating 200 or more retail transactions in the Commonwealth. That would also apply to someone who just happens to, for instance, have a business in the Commonwealth that they sell some here in the Commonwealth, but they also have a robust online business that they would be triggered, or let's say an out-of-state person who sells into Virginia that just has a robust online business on their own. Once they reach that threshold of $100,000 of revenue in Virginia or 200 transactions in Virginia, they also would be required to sell.
In Virginia, right?
In Virginia.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman, that helps, thank you.
Does that conclude your question?
It does, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Senator Hager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on Senator Newman's line of questioning with Senator Ruff and Lisa, and for those that have a specific interest in this, we were not able to get this substitute in the hands of some of the people who were keenly interested in the wording that Lisa just went through. So it clearly was our intent from our work yesterday and from what we're doing today that there not be the opportunity for this double taxation, and that we were going to put language in place and then allow tax to then be able to delegate to tax and have them make sure this is regulated appropriately. Having said that, if these businesses that are here paying attention to us right now after we report this out today, if there is some change in language that needs to be made as this goes to the floor, we will certainly review that. If there is some more artful way of putting it so you're clear on our intent that we have agreed on, then we would do that. We think Lisa has done a good job, but you all have lawyers who are looking at this that may have a better way of saying it or a different way of saying it. Mr. Chairman, that's my comment.
Any other questions or comments? Senator Ruff, do you have any more points of enlightenment on the bill you'd like to share?
Lisa, do I have any more points of enlightenment to share?
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to be heard in favor of the bill? Mr. Secretary, are you here as an individual citizen, or are you here as the Secretary of Finance?
Or as a seller?
Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman, I'm here as Secretary of Finance on behalf of the administration. We do support this bill. Would suggest to you the delayed for the facilitator will reduce the revenue in the first year because it caused the seller to remit the tax without the facilitator, so we don't know exactly how much. And the department tells me that they really do not need the additional time unless you desire for them to have it to set the marketplace up.
Well, Mr. Secretary, before I embrace your support of it, do I have your assurance that the administration is not going to spend all of these extra dollars that are coming in?
Mr. Chairman, I have the authority to support this position on this bill, and I suspect you'll have a lot to say on where we get to spend it as we go through this process, sir.
I know, but I want us to, I listened to the State of the Commonwealth address, and I want us to embrace one another and make sure we're going forward together. So can you give me that assurance?
Mr. Chairman, I can give you the assurance that we will implement this bill to the extent that we humanly can and support it as we go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. It's always a pleasure to banter with you.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman,
Mr.
I
Chairman.
have another question.
Oh,
for
I'm
the-
sorry, Senator Hanger has a question.
I have a question for you or through tax, because the way Lisa has drawn this, it puts the onus for collection on the marketplace facilitator, and I presume it could have gone the other way.
Yes, but the delayed enactment, those small businesses, the way it's written, will still have to pay the tax, and they would not have the benefit of the facilitator.
Right, but, Mr. Chairman, what I'm talking about in this instance is the verbiage from 546 through 549.
Yeah.
Where we're putting the onus on the marketplace facilitator to collect the tax rather than the restaurant or wherever. Is that where it needs to be? Is that the proper way to do this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think it could be done either way, and the revenue implications would be the same, and I think the department would be neutral on that. It just needs to specify, as this bill does, which way is
Okay.
intended.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would think that would be an issue if those that are involved in this type of business could give us some thoughts on that before this hits the floor, in case it's a better way of doing it to reverse that.
Well, Mr. Co-Chairman, let me emphasize what Senator Hanger was saying, that you can give us the input on that, lay off the staff. We will be happy to receive any suggestions that you have, but you don't need to lobby our staff who are working very hard on this, just so we're clear. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify one thing I said. The bill does, in order to preserve the revenue impact, it does need to require marketplace facilitators to collect in cases where the seller is not collecting. Like, there could be some sellers, for example, that would be below those thresholds that are selling through the marketplace, and that's where a lot of the revenue in this bill is picked up. So that piece would need to remain intact, but it could be drafted either the way the original bill was drafted and this bill is drafted, where the default is the marketplace facilitator will collect for everybody, or it could be that the marketplace facilitator will collect unless the seller is going to collect instead. Either of those options would be neutral from our perspective.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Anyone else feel compelled to give us input? Good evening.
Mr.
How are
Chairman,
you?
hi, I'm good. Members of the committee, Jody Roth on behalf of Virginia Retail Federation. We haven't really had a chance to completely look through this. We do see some areas of concern that we need to kind of run to our higher ups and take a deeper dive in and see how we can live with or what we can do in those areas. However, we do feel it's important for Virginia to enact legislation that has economic nexus and a marketplace facilitator component in order to level the playing field for brick and mortar retailers. We also feel that it is very important to have an implementation date well before the 2019 holiday season. Thank you.
Well, in our eyes, you are the pinnacle. You are the higher up, okay?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ross Scrogg on behalf of eBay. We are also just digesting the substitute, very appreciative of the changes we've seen so far. We'll be sure to share any additional comments with you moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Garg, I taught you to read really fast, so this is the time to do it, buddy.
I'm reading as fast as I can, Senator.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone who has a different perspective on the bill? And we do appreciate that it's fairly hot off the press, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Hanger.
Thank you. As the conversation has evolved, I would at least like to offer the motion then that since taxes said they can handle it and the representative retails said sooner rather than later, that we delete lines 752 through 753 so it will become effective July 1 of 2019.
Now you got him up again.
Stepped on your toe. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hanger, that would be the one item that I can tell you we are supportive of. As I said
Is that something you need
yesterday.
to react to, Mr. Chairman? That you could tell us before it hits the floor, or you know right now you can't live with that?
I know right now, I mean, I can tell you that, as I said yesterday, eBay is the only purely marketplace facilitator in the room today. The only other major example we can think of is Etsy. We do not own any goods. We do not sell any goods. We do not warehouse any goods. We purely facilitate a transaction between a small business seller and a purchaser.
September.
And while we are dealing with this in 50 states, we want to make sure we get it right. And we are happy to collect the additional revenue for the Commonwealth, but we want to make sure we get it right. So not necessarily a delayed enactment, but at least the flexibility that if we are not prepared to go live on July 1, that we can have the flexibility to delay collection until our programming and our module is set up to properly collect tax in the Commonwealth.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I would withdraw the motion, but would want to continue the conversation between now and Monday to see how we might work that out.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Grog, he's much more gentlemanly than I. You're going to have the opportunity between now and the time it hits the floor to see if there is some middle ground that can be reached on this. Otherwise, lines 752 through 754 look really swell.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator McDougal.
The concern that our retailers in our local communities have about this being in place before the next holiday season is resonating with me. So I'd like to hear about a time prior to November that you would be able to put this in place. So, Mr. Chairman, not everybody might feel the same way, but I do feel fairly strongly this needs to go in before the holiday season. So whatever date that is, August, September, October, before my birthday would be a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, Senator McDougal, we'd be happy with October 1st if the committee would be willing to accept that small amendment.
You might want to socialize that.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Norma, understood?
You get my drift?
Yes, sir.
I thought you might.
Mr. Chairman, one solution might be to keep it on July 1st and then give tax the authority to change it up to 90 days if they have not gotten their act together.
Senator Ruff, my thought was, and not trying to be a protagonist, if this comes out, the best it would do is it would be on the calendar for the first day tomorrow. So that gives Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday would be the second day on the calendar. Tuesday would be the third day on the calendar. So, you know, as much as these people, the exorbitant compensation they receive to be so creative and advocate with the intensity that they do, I am confident in that time frame that we can come up with a reasonable approach based upon the expressions from members of this committee. All right. Anyone else have any input? All right. Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman, having withdrawn the motion, and we're going to leave that for consideration by the impacted parties, I would move the bill, that is the substitute amendment in nature for Senate Bill 1083. I would move its passage.
It's been moved and. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. The motion made by Senator Hanger and second by Senator Newman is that Senate Bill, the amendment in the nature of a substitute to Senate Bill 1083 pass, incorporating Senate Bill 1120, 1267, 1294, 1390, 1767, 1500, and 1601. And that would be all of the remaining Wayfarer bills that had been introduced. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, if you would open the roll, please, sir. Yes, sir, please.
Ayes 14, no 0.
Congratulations, Senator Ruff. You got unanimity amongst this committee. I'm very proud of you, sir. All right, with that, we'll move. We'll move to some. I made one motion.
To incorporate and.
It was one
report.
motion.
Yep, got it. Yep, we did.
It incorporated them and voted it out in one move.
He's efficient.
Johnny has had to do that. He's an expert.
All right, now that the dialogue is finished up here, we'll take the senators who have signed up who want to articulate on the bill. The first one I have is Senator DeSteph.
We have actually passed those by.
Oh, was his one and we passed by?
All of them.
All of
We-
them, okay.
Our docket is clear.
Oh. Wait a minute.
They really don't need to hear.
You're right. I did.
Okay. Senator Peake, I just, one of the words that I disdain is transparency, because we throw it around so liberally. But trying to be forthright, we are happy to listen to your presentation and summation of Senate Bill 1337. I can suggest to you that there is a significant consensus amongst the members of this committee. I know it's shocking to you, but to roll your bill into 1083.
That's better than I expected.
You know, that's
But,
why,
that's,
Senator Peake, that's why they call me Senator Cream Puff.
yeah, we'll see, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Co-Chairman. At least I don't have to get in a shouting match again with Senator Sasslaw. I do want to remind, this is a revenue-neutral bill. It is not a car tax situation, as I was accused of yesterday afternoon. I will just say, this bill is so brilliant in its simplicity that it seems to have perplexed everyone who is involved in finance. But revenue neutral, we could cut the sales tax by 1/10%, and we'd be revenue neutral. Thank you very much.
You are a pioneer, Senator Peake, and I want to congratulate you on that.
You want to roll it into the big?
You want to be rolled into
Yes.
Marketplace?
You do.
You want it to be rolled in, or do you want it to slumber in a very peaceful?
Let's roll it on over and see what happens. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, y'all didn't ask me yesterday, Senator Sasslaw. Did y'all?
Yeah.
Did you ask me if I was rolling over?
Yeah.
I was so irritated by how much he had yelled at me, I didn't hear it.
Now you know how I felt for 28 years.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, having voted on the prevailing side whereby we need to do that? You can do it?
We're good.
He's the man.
Oh, you can. I didn't know you could do that.
John and I will straighten it out. Just follow me, okay? Senator Hanger moves and Senator Newman seconds.
No.
Okay, Senator Hanger moves and Senator Wagner seconds that Senate Bill 1337 be rolled in and become a part of Senate Bill 1083. That is the motion. Hearing no discussion, if you would open the roll.
That's all right.
All right.
All right, with that, congratulations, Senator Peake. You persuaded us to do that. Is anything else to come before the committee? With that, the committee will rise.